Ladies and gentlemen, what's good, y'all? It's the Chillmeister, Chris Gary, and this is the first interview of Focus Fights Audio for 2025, the third overall year that this. And if I can even try to resemble even a small fraction, a small bit of what my favorite promotion, Booker T's Reality of Wrestling, has done over the last 2 decades, it will help to accomplish this year in their 20th anniversary year. And I hope it'll help me through some type of popularity, if you know what I mean. Speaking of the road, Blitz, their first show of 2025 will take place as of the time of this recording next Saturday, February 8th, live from the Walker, Texas Lawyer Arena, 9300 MNF Lowry Expressway. And this man is set to face off against one of Terrale Tempo's henchmen, his mercenary, Big Luther. Get your tickets now, realityofwrestling.com, or call 281 993 5321 for more info. But yeah, without any further ado, if you know him, you love him, and you respect him all damn day, this is Will Allday. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, I am feeling like $1,000,000, Christian. Thanks for having me on. I'm very excited to get this done with you.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be able to, it's a privilege to be able to talk to you because I talked with the other pillars of the reality of wrestling. I mean, it's yourself, it's Mysterious Q, it's Ryan Davidson, it's Brian Keith. And I'm just glad that I even got the chance to speak to one of y'all, let alone all four of y'all. So it's a privilege to even do this. But
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited.
no problem. But still, though, looking ahead to your future, to your immediate future, real quick. I mean, you've been locked in a few recently on reality wrestling television, and by that meaning on CW39 and on YouTube with Terrell
Yep.
Temple, who has been one of your, I mean, I wouldn't say one of your fiercest rivals. I mean, y'all had a pretty athletic rivalry starting out, but then it just became a little bit more heated. And now you're going to be
Yeah.
facing off one of his henchmen in Big Luther. I mean, what does this upcoming match mean in terms of preparing not just for Big Luther, but for Tempo's tactics, so to speak?
Well, after our last man standing match, he's found a way to skate by yet again, and he can't do it in an honest way. He can't do it in an authentic way. He's got to find a way to coast underneath the rules, and he's utilizing his goons, as I like to call him, Q and Big Luther. And Big Luther's like 360 pounds. He's like 6'4". He's a giant of a man, and that's a tall task, for anybody, and especially somebody like me. I'm a little undersized when it comes to professional wrestling, but the I've been this way for 7 years. I've been doing this 7 years this month, Christian, and I've
Mm-hmm.
always found a way to get ahead. I've always found a way to get on top, and do again. When Tempo knows it's just him and I, he can't touch me, and there's nothing he can do. He's part of the old guard. He was one of the guys when I first stepped in that was on top of the mountain. He was the guy that everybody looked to as the number one guy. When it came to in-ring activity, when it came to just being a professional wrestler at the reality of wrestling. And, now 7 years later, the tables have turned. I like to lead by example, and by doing that, I like to wrestle and fight the right way, and that's doing it on my own. And so, I after that last man standing match, I knew that I had to I had to get I had to get my I guess let's say vengeance back, because at the end of the day, my goal is to be on top of the mountain again. It's to be the reality wrestling champion, and the only way I can do that is to handle business right now, Christian. And my business right now is getting back at Tempo. And if he's going to throw his guys in the way as obstacles to get to him, then that's just what I'm going to have to undertake. And, I already dealt with Quentin Winters. Now I got Big Luther on February 8th at the World Gym Arena, at the Walker Gym Arena, excuse me. And I've been tape studying, I've been working out, I've been trying new strategies to figure out just what I need to do, because it's not going to be any other match. It's going to be a match where I'm going to have to pull out all the stops, and I'm going to have to find a new strategy to get past somebody like that. And so once I do, it's going to be me and Tempo again. If I can get past Big Luther, and I cannot wait, because I cannot wait to put this to bed, put this behind me, so I can move on. I can move on in my life. He's like a girlfriend who keeps calling, who keeps wanting to come back, and what we have here should be done. So, loose ends, let's move on. Let's get me some jewelry back, and let's get me back to the top of the mountain. That's my focus, Christian.
I see. But before you even thought about having jewelry around your waist, and by jewelry meaning 10 pounds of gold that the Reality of Wrestling
25 pounds of gold.
Okay, right,
Yeah.
of course. 25 pounds of gold, because of the fact that you held the Road title 2 times and you were a former Reality of Wrestling Texas Heavyweight Champion. But long before
and
that,
TV champion.
I know. I'm just
you're a historian, Christian.
Yes. I mean, I'm not gonna say I know better than Kirby Carry-On, but I mean, I've been a pro for the last dozen years since y'all been on television, so I should know my thing too about the Rose history. But speaking of your history, going back to when you started in professional wrestling, I think you said it was 2018, but you started training back in 2017. I mean, things with the Reality of Wrestling and professional wrestling in general felt a little bit different then compared to now. What came to mind when you first stepped into that ring?
Can I do this? And not just can I do it? Can I do it at the top level, at an elite level? Because I didn't want to just be a bit part player. I didn't want to do this as a hobby. I didn't want to be a mid card guy or a throwaway guy. I wanted to be the champion, and I want to be the champion everywhere I go. I want to be the guy everywhere I go. So that was the first thing that came to mind, and that was when I came down my first little scout trip in 2017. Before I started, that was when I saw Terrale Tempo at the top of the card. And so, this is real life imitating art. This is Terrale Tempo being the man and me wanting to take his spot. And the only way I can definitively take his spot is to beat him clean again. So that's where we are right now.
I see. I mean, come to think of it, that story is probably no different than what Q had to go through and what Brian Keith had to go through, starting out as a fan thinking, if I could do this. And obviously now you see Mysterious Q at the top of his game. You see, obviously, Brian Keith on every Wednesday. I mean, when it comes down to yourself, and by extension, Gino Medina in MLW, Ryan Davison in All Japan, I mean, you had stellar matches with those competitors. But as one of the few triple champions in Reality of Wrestling history, would you say that your legacy is set, or would you obviously want to add more to your craft?
Well, I got a lot left in the tank, like Mark Henry says. There's way too much left in the tank for me to say my legacy is set. My legacy, I think, is going to be going above and beyond Reality of Wrestling. That's what I'm working and striving for. But I want to leave this place at the absolute best that it's ever been, and that's where we've been going year after year. And I take great pride in saying that I'm a big part of bringing that along. I'm a big part of getting in the ring and getting people in the door and putting on a show and being best I can possibly be. And the goal is to be the best in the world. And so that's essentially what I want my legacy to be. I want Booker T to say the best wrestler in the world, started with me.
And I mean, to be honest, in a way, you are one of the best wrestlers in Texas for obvious reasons. But would you say that a tag team title reign would also be worth adding, or are you more like Batman? You work alone, you fight alone.
Never say never, man. I do like working alone. I don't like relying on other people. I don't like feeling like I owe somebody something. So I always want to put the work in myself. I always want to make sure that I don't have anybody else to blame or any excuses. Everything falls on me. So that's the type of way, or that's the type of guy I've been. That's the way I've lived my life, my entire life. And so, I don't feel that I'm going to stray from that anytime soon, but you never know. I would like to say that I'm a Grand Slam champion there. So the only way to do that is to win those tag titles. But right now, I'm focused on getting somewhere as a singles competitor.
I see. Now, when you started your career, I mean, like I said, I've been a fan of the road since 2012, dating all the way back to when the reality of wrestling first aired on television locally. And when you
Yeah,
started for the road, you were in a little faction called Legion, led by Shawn Hendricks. Now, when
yeah.
you are part of that faction, I know it was you, it was Bartek, it was Ninja Mac, and it was Hendrix, obviously. But what stood out about that faction that a lot of people really didn't know about?
I think it was just makeup. That's really what stood out. Yeah, we didn't really look like that. It was a lot of makeup, Christian. Uh,
Under-
no, I think probably what stood out that people don't know is that faction essentially has been a springboard for a lot of people. It's been a faction that has introduced new talent and allowed them to organically show their personality and have, I'll speak for myself here. It was a way for me to, sink my teeth in to professional wrestling from the jump. And, as much as I hated it, which I did, it was, uh, it was something that I learned a lot from. I learned a lot in the ring and out of the ring. And uh, there are things, lessons that I learned there that I still use today to help elevate new talent, to help reinforce some lessons for myself as well. So it's for younger talent that really is official for people trying to get on TV.
Understood. I mean, especially considering the fact that, like I said, when it came down to the competitors, it was you, and obviously you've been one of the main stalwarts in the row. But it's obviously Keeper Bartek, who's gone on to run the Pro. It's Ninja Mac, who's
Mm-hmm.
gone on to not only star in ring throughout GCW, but Pro Wrestling Noah in Japan as well. And I mean, yeah, basically bumping around still somewhat in this area. I mean,
Yep.
when it comes down to that, do you look at those competitors and say, hey, we did something together that a lot of people wouldn't expect us to do?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially if you look at me now, you know, there's no black. I got purple, silver, gold. I got long hair. I don't have a big bushy beard. I don't got any makeup on. Just appearance wise, yeah, absolutely. And then like personality wise, I've broken out of my shell a little bit and I become more authentically me. And I think each of those guys has as well.
I mean, in a way, would you say that you're like this area's version of an AJ Styles or
I wouldn't say that. People have said that. I try to just be here. Here's something I've learned along the way too.
something? Okay.
When you're starting out, you try to emulate the people that you like, or your heroes, or your mentors, or just people you think are awesome. So you try to emulate these guys because that's the reason why you got into this in the first place.
Hmm.
Is because of watching people and appreciating different wrestlers. And then as you grow, you try more and more to separate yourself from that and try to become more authentically you. And so, yeah, I'd say in the past, absolutely, because he was the best in the world for forever. He is one of the best of all time. Um, and why wouldn't I emulate somebody like that? Why wouldn't I have that as an example to try to reach for? And as I grew, I just found myself more and more. I found my voice. I found my personality. I found my presence. And so as you grow, you try to find more and more ways to just be authentic. And that's what I've done.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, when it comes down to that, you have to try and find a way to better yourself. And what better way is to, I mean, in a way, and I was listening to a little bit of Brad Gilmore's interview with Jada Parker. It's all about how you basically focus on building your character up, not just in the ring, but out the ring, so to speak.
Right.
I
Yep.
mean, especially when it comes down to building that character up. I mean, like I said, in the interview that I listened to with Lord Trillmore and Jada Parker, Jada basically said, "Oh, yeah, I know the nickname's kind of crazy, but I do remember him as that." Still, though, when I listened back to that interview with Brad and Jada, Jada said that she relied on a lot of old movies, watched a little bit of old anime just to channel her character a bit because it's what Norman Smiley over at NXT told her to do, so to speak. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
that would you say that a lot of these younger competitors, especially those coming in from other sports, would need to try and find a way to mold their character in other ways other than just, oh, I'm gonna be in the ring and I'm gonna do this, that, and the third?
Absolutely. Because there are plenty of great athletes in the world. You have to find a way to stand out and separate yourself. And the way you can do that is by showing your personality, the way you look, the way you talk, the way you walk, the way you handle yourself, the way you stand. All of that matters. All of that matters in making people remember you. And to, like I said, separate yourself from the others. And that's one of the hardest things to do because what hasn't been done? There's very little that hasn't been done. So the easiest thing for me to tell people when they ask for advice is just be you, just be authentically you, and the rest will follow. And then you can start adapting and changing from there. But it's gotta be something that you believe in, because if you don't believe in it, how's the crowd watching you on TV or in the building? How are they going to believe it if who they're watching doesn't believe it themselves?
I mean, yeah, basically, if I mean, in a way, and I've been watching the Row, as I said, for a dozen years, and there were some guys that probably, as Booker would say on NXT, wouldn't even pass the airport test because their
Yeah.
personality just don't
Smell
stick.
test.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
their personalities wouldn't stick out. I wouldn't even know them if they were slipping on a banana peel, so to speak.
Right. Yeah.
But in a way, I mean, I guess that probably goes back to you and your brother's athletic backgrounds because, of course, you played college football at Rice. I think your brother played college baseball at Rice and then played in the minor leagues for a bit. Is it true or not?
He played for Central Arkansas. He was one of the best players in the nation, got drafted by the Boston Red Sox and played minor league ball for like 8 years for the Red Sox, the Padres, and the Angels. So, and that I'm very blessed with too, to have somebody that I grew up with fighting neck and neck over everything: video games, basketball, baseball, soccer, football, everything. We always wanted to be better than each other, and so we always pushed each other to be better, to compete. And I'm at the time, sometimes it was pretty pretty annoying. But now, you look back at it, and I wouldn't be where I am, and he wouldn't be where he is without each other. We were there every day, telling each other, you gotta keep going, you gotta get up, you gotta be faster, you gotta be stronger. And so that was something that I'll always be grateful for.
True, true. And I mean, to be honest, going back to the one time where you did manage to stand out as a professional wrestler, obviously you've been up and down the roads of independent promotions all over this country and even had a short little stint with New Japan Pro Wrestling in 2021 for their Strong show when they made it all the way up to Garland in North Texas. But there's one match that pretty much stuck out for me seeing you in the public eye, and it was back when you were starting out in. I mean, it was back when you were like a year or two in. You were on Raw in Houston at Toyota Center. I mean, you were basically supposed to face off against Curt Hawkins, and you were given the name James Harden for some crazy reason just to get a pop out the crowd. And the crazy thing
Yep.
is, you won. But how often do people talk to you about that match? And let's just say if Kurt is listening to this or just watching this and say, "Hey, I want to come down from TNA just to face you again," would you welcome the opportunity to face him?
Yeah, I'd beat him again. Um, that was about 6 months into my career. Actually, it was exactly 6 months into my career. So not a year or two, it was 6 months. And, first few years, I had people talking all the time. I had people stopping me on the street and recognizing me from that. So that just shows you the grand scope that WWE is, right? Because I was a nobody with no name. And I had people stop in to take pictures with me and say hi to me because of that, because of my 4 minutes on Monday Night Raw. Um, that was awesome. It was an awesome experience. Something that I'm looking forward to do again when I get a contract. And we'll see where we go from there. But New Japan was awesome. AEW was awesome. Traveling overseas was awesome. I mean, this business that we're in, all these experiences, it's pretty cool to say do that. And I get to say it over and over and over and over again. So I'm very blessed to be where I am. But don't let that fool you. I work my ass off to get there too. So it takes a lot of hard work to be ready for these opportunities.
And speaking of working the asses off, I mean, obviously, over the last 2 decades, the reality of wrestling has worked their asses off to have the distinction of being. And I know that Booker hopefully won't get mad at me for mocking him and saying this, but the flagship of Texas wrestling. but
That's right. That's right. The flagship of Texas wrestling.
yeah, but still though, considering the distinction now with the WWE ID program tagging the reality of wrestling as one of their promotions, one of their training grounds for future competitors to be a part of them. And even more so now, you got guys from AEW and Brian Keith. You got guys from TNA. I mean, you got Hank and Tank, the tag team champions over there. And you got
Yep.
obviously competitors wanting to come down there and hone their craft as well. But with the WWE ID distinction for the row, and I know it's not just you, it's people like Brad Gilmore and Kirby Carrion that are helping out as well as Kevin Bernhardt, the producer of the whole thing. But what would you hope that would lead to in terms of national attention goals for the row?
I hope it leads to a handful of us getting a contract. That's what I hope. We are, I think, like almost about 4,000 YouTube subscribers away from Ring of Honor. That's
Wow.
massive. We're on our way to 900,000 subscribers on YouTube. That is huge. And so that was really without the WWE ID program. And so I'm hoping that with this program, over the next year, we can get over 1 million and we can start really making some strides and gaining some momentum as far as getting new viewers interested in the reality of wrestling. Because the name of the game with professional wrestling is viewers, tickets, eyes. That's the main thing. Hopefully, with that, we're well on our way to becoming a name that a lot of people know throughout the country.
And I mean, to be honest, when it comes down to that, the biggest match that the reality of wrestling has is, I think, from a few years ago, Hyon versus AQA. I think that cracked like 60 million views, so to speak. And I know that when it comes down to that particular match, that's probably where the bulk of this, I mean, aside from, Brad and Booker doing their show, but that match is probably where the bulk of those subscriptions probably came from because they were in awe of what those two ladies were able to do.
Yeah, they definitely were in awe of those two ladies, but that's one video, and that's many years ago. That's before we had all these subscribers. So yeah, it did get a lot of views and did get us some subscribers, but we've been consistently churning out product with the Hall of Fame podcast, with the reality wrestling episodes, with little tidbits and videos here and there. I mean, we have like 3,600 videos now uploaded. And so it's about consistency. It's about constantly churning out content. That's how you grow.
And I mean, that's 3,600 videos, what, dating back to, if I'm not mistaken, like 2012, 2013, before the TV deal, of course, right?
It's got to be something like that. Something like that.
I mean, because I hate to basically watch on the fly, but I'm looking back and seeing Booker T putting over his Fade 5 and Abel Andrew Jackson, State of the Row address. I mean, this
Yeah.
base,
Yeah.
yeah, it basically dates back a long way, so to speak, to when the
Yeah.
road was formative, so to speak.
Yep. Yep. And it's constantly been growing. We hired a woman, Catrice Savanda. She was amazing. She grew our subscriptions and our platform tremendously. And so we actually got people working for us that knew what they were doing. And that was the big shift. And that was a few, when we were back in the old building, that was a few years ago, probably like four-ish, yeah, 4-ish years ago. And she just really helped us capitalize on everything we had. And, we're just a small company. We don't know everything. And so when we bring people in who know what they're doing, it's gold, because what we offer is an awesome product. We just need more people to see it. And once we got help with that, it's been consistently growing.
And I mean, it is crazy when you think about it, because the reality of wrestling, from what I remember, went from from a three-story barn off Winkler Street in Houston and having shows in Clear Lake all the way up to being in my neck of the woods in the Mall of the Mainland complex. First at World's
Yep.
Gym Arena, which is now an action park, an indoor action park, so to speak, and now having this little small venue to themselves, which used to be a doctor's office, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it's crazy to think how the road has changed in the 20 years that they've been around, but more specifically in the 12 or 13 years that they've been able to put their craft out for not just the people in this area to see, but for the people around the world to see.
Right. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, come to think of it, I can't ask, where would you hope your career will be in 5 to 10 years? Because let's face it, nobody knows what that entails but you and probably God. But still, though, what would you say to someone who feels inspired by what you or others do in that ring, not just in the row, but whatever ring you touch in the world of professional wrestling?
Put the work in. It's that simple. Put the work in. And this can go along with any walk of life. If you really want to do something, you know, shut your mouth and get working. That's it.
Hmm, I see. I mean, point proven. Now, I got some more
Yep.
questions to ask, if that's okay. I mean, first of all, what would you be doing? I mean, obviously, I know that you have an athletic background. I mean, you probably would have done a lot of other things if you weren't in professional wrestling, but what specifically would you be doing if you hadn't even thought about touching a professional wrestling ring?
Well, when I was younger, I wanted to be a professional athlete. I wanted to be an actor, and this was the perfect mesh of both of those things. So this is what led me there. If as I got older, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I graduated with a degree from a great university, and so the world was my oyster. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I tried some stuff with oil and gas, and I was successful at that, but it just wasn't my passion. I was miserable waking up every day, and so To answer your question, I don't know because I had tried to figure that out for quite a while before I actually got into wrestling. I got in a lot later than most people do. So this is what really made me like want to get out of bed in the morning. And so, I don't really have an answer for you, Christian. That's rare, but that's what it is.
I understand. I mean, I could basically equate it, and I've interviewed several fighters and personalities before, but when it comes down to the fighters who basically say that, I just equate it to, fighting is life or lucha is life, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, in a way, that's probably the main thing that settles it. Now, when it
Yeah.
comes to the fans that are going to be seeing you compete on February 8th. Obviously, it's the night before the Super Bowl. People want to
Yep.
do anything else rather than just be at 9300 M&M Lowry Expressway. But, I mean, let's face it, the venue is a little intimate. It's a little smaller than the World Gym Arena. It's even smaller than Clear Lake Recreation Center. But still, though, what would be your message to the fans going out to see Reality of Wrestling Blitz the night before the Super Bowl, February 8th, or those who are going to be watching it in later weeks on the Reality of Wrestling's YouTube channel or the the historic Pro Wrestling Blowtorch Channel 39 here in Houston?
Well, let me address something you said first. This is a little smaller venue than the previous venue, but we
Mm-hmm.
have consistently for a year sold out this arena. We've had more people in this arena than we have in the past couple arenas. This is the biggest crowds that we've gotten in our own arenas. So we've gotten about 800 people there consistently. So as intimate as it is, it's pretty jam packed with people. The energy's up, the atmosphere is crazy. So if you haven't been to a professional wrestling show, this is one of the shows that you're going to want to go to. If I show my friends or people I respect out in the real world professional wrestling and what I do for a living, I'm not going to show them something that has us wrestling in a barn or a little warehouse down the street. I'm going to show them the real deal, and that's reality or wrestling. So if you want an experience, this is where to go. Okay, if you want characters, if you want entertainment, if you want action, this is the place to be. This is where you're going to get the best show in the entire nation on the independents. And Booker says he doesn't like to call this an independent because it's really not. It's not an independent. We're like the minor league of AEW or WWE. We're the next guys up. And so if you want to see the names of tomorrow, this is the place to be.
I mean, basically, you would say that the Reality of Wrestling, in a way, is most definitely a feeder league to the big time.
These are the best. These are going to be the best wrestlers, hands down, in the ring and out of the ring that you're going to see. These may not be the wrestlers with the biggest buzz or the biggest names yet, but these are fundamentally the best wrestlers in the state and in the country. So if you want to see people who really hone their craft, really put the work in, really want to be something, this is where you need to come.
Mm-hmm. Understood. I mean, and especially considering the fact that, for a lot of fans down here, like I said, a lot of people may remember watching wrestling on Saturday nights or Sunday mornings on Channel 39, back in the day from 1967 to 1987, and probably think,
Mm-hmm.
hey, this isn't the wrestling I grew up with, but it's something I could bring my son or my daughter to, or even my grandkids to, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I mean, especially considering the fact that now professional wrestling is getting so mainstream. I mean, obviously, if it's not on the Rose YouTube channel or on Channel 39, I mean, y'all just got through doing an event on Title Match Wrestling, Race to the Bell.
Yep, great partner. Yep.
I know them for sure. They've been a great partner for y'all for the last dozen years. I've been a fan of theirs for a dozen years as well. But still, though, do you think that we could potentially? I mean, I know you can't say anything about this because you're just a competitor. But do you think that that will lead to more magic with the Row and title match wrestling down the line?
Absolutely, absolutely, because they have such a tremendous audience as well, and we stopped working with them a few years ago, and now I think all the way through the end of 2025, we have a contract with them, and that is only going to grow their atmosphere and ours. We're going to have a lot more people watching both sets of products, so it's just a win-win for both companies
Mm-hmm.
and the
Agree.
wrestlers as well, right? I'm going to get more people watching my stuff that are on Title Match, and vice versa. It's great, and I love working with Telly. He runs Title Match Network. I think he's an awesome person. I think he's a great businessman. I think he has an awesome product, and I'm excited to see what we can do with this partnership.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Telly Business doesn't get a lot of credibility, but when he does, it's well deserved.
It
Now,
is. Yep.
when it comes down to how the fans can contact you or send you good graces, give you good luck, how can the fans connect with you?
You can follow me on any of my social medias. I don't think I anymore. It's on my phone at least. All the other ones besides that, you can. It's I am Mr. Allday. It's not a math equation. It's easy to remember. I'm Will Allday, Mr. Allday. I am Mr. Allday. So you can go there. You can give me a follow. You can comment on any of my stuff. I don't have any of my notifications on just because social media is nonstop. So when I see it, I'll get to you. But those comments, I try to make sure that I respond to every one of those comments. Maybe not the messages, but everything that's in the public forum is free game. So, if you got a question or just want to show some love, see me on there.
I see, I see. And one more question before we wrap this up. Obviously, we said earlier on, we talked about this match earlier on that you and Terrale Tempo's henchman, Big Luther, are going to be facing off against each other this Saturday. But let's just say down the line, this will lead to one final battle between you and Terrell. I mean, what do you have to say about Terrell Tempo and his crew? Let's just say if Terrell probably listens back to this interview.
Yeah, and he probably will because he's smart and he's a guy who does his research. And when I get through Luther, because I will, I'm coming after you, Tempo. And when I do get my hands on you, I'm going to make sure that nobody else is going to stop me. Not Quentin Winters, not Big Luther. It's just going to be me and you. And we're going to see who the real better man is. Because deep down, I know you know that. And I know that. So we're going to let the whole world know that because there's not going to be anybody that's going to interfere in this. It's going to be you and me one-on-one. And my hands are going to be raised because I'm going to kick your damn head off.
And that is on all damn day.
That's
But
right. That's right. We started doing this all damn day. And that's what we'll be doing from here on out.
right. And speaking of Mr. Will Allday, again, you can catch the real if you're in the Houston, Texas area, and you do happen to take a drive down I-45, be sure to head out to the mainland city complex, the mainland city center. I mean, I'm from the damn area. I should know what it's called
Yeah.
by now. But yeah, Sawyer, 9300 M&L Lowry Expressway in Texas City, Texas, where that man will face off against, yeah, that man will face off
That's right.
against Big Luther Saturday night, February 8th, for Reality of Wrestling's Blitz event. Again, if you want tickets, go to realityofwrestling.com or check out or call them at 281-993-5321 for more information because like Booker always says, and I hope he doesn't get angry at me mocking him again, you don't want to get left out. You don't want to get shut out. Do it. Do it now. I do it for you.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, now how do I actually let me go ahead and stop this.
You'll